excited to share this with you guys today. And I'm going to be taking a sort of three-step approach here to the demo. And I hope I get a thumbs up here from Nick that you're seeing my ChatGPT.
Seeing your ChatGPT screen and hearing
awesome.
you well.
Awesome. So for those of you who are familiar with ChatGPT, this should look familiar. This is a public-facing page. Anyone can go and access chatgpt.com. Don't think that was the case 6 months ago. But really, you can go in there now and start using it. And it's a really incredibly powerful tool. If you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. And one way to get started, we've put in here what we call a prompt. And when you put a prompt into ChatGPT, you don't really just want to ask for what you're looking for. You kind of need to phrase it in specific ways. And so what we've done here is we've kind of teased everything out here, right? So first of all, give the Gen AI a role. So who is the Gen AI acting as? They're acting as a value selling expert in the human resources software space, for this example, right? Now, okay, it knows who they are. What do we want them to do? Create a dollarized customer value proposition. For what purpose? It's for a sales presentation. And now the really key important parts, now we've got that kind of blurb out of the way, is that we want to create this for Workday's talent management solution. So I've basically given it a role, I've given it a context, and I've asked it for some help to create a value story. And when I click through on that, I actually get a fairly decent response here, and there's going to be some mixed results across different industries and companies and solutions, but I actually get something pretty decent here with this question. So first of all, it gives me a summary back of what I'm asking it for, right? It says, to create a compelling dollarized value proposition, we have to focus on quantifiable benefits that align with key business drivers like efficiency, cost savings, productivity, and talent retention. And that's spot on, right? That's exactly what we're looking for. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom here for a quick second because I think this is ultimately what we want, right? Total estimated annual value. It gives me 4 value drivers, $2.25 million from reduced turnover, $2.5 million from increased productivity, et cetera, et cetera. It all adds up to over $6 million annually, which sounds awesome. For us at LeveragePoint, that's always a good place to start. And then we work back and say, okay, where did all those numbers come from? And here I can say, okay, let's go to the first one, increase in employee retention. A company with 1,000 employees, annual turnover rate of 15%, would save 30 employees a year at a cost of about $75,000 per person, so $2.25 million. It gives me the numbers. It gives me the math even too, right? So sometimes you can get pretty good results out of this. But again, the key word is sometimes. And what you also can't do is operationalize. So I'm going to take a step here to, step 2 before we go into the LeveragePoint tool and look at an advanced Gen AI tool that we're using to kind of streamline everything. So you'll notice if we take a step back again, here's the original question. I have to give it context. I have to give it its role. I have to ask it for what I'm looking for. Here, I have just 2 inputs. What company are we talking about today? Workday. What offering are we talking about? Talent management solution. And I can hit run here. Now, in the background, it's going to be doing all kinds of work, right? Rather than what we call here, this sort of single shot approach where you ask for one question and you get a giant answer. Here, we've developed a complete workflow where it's going through and it's figuring out all kinds of important information about Workday's talent management solution and then assembling it together into a cohesive story. So when the results that I actually get a few different things. Number one, I get a list of case studies. And this is something that we've asked it for specifically. These case studies start with, what is the value driver or the business impact here? Enhanced employee engagement. And for that, what is the problem? A company was struggling with employee turnover. What's the dollarization? Each company, each thing they lost $20,000 in costs. And the impact by switching to Workday, they get 150 positions, $20,000, 25% to $750,000. So you'll see that the math looks similar, right, to what we got before. But what we've done is we've standardized it. and we've asked it to give it back in the same format every time so we can get consistent results. So I've got 4 impacts here: improved recruitment efficiency, optimized development initiatives, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't just have the value drivers. I also have the story that goes with it. So you'll see here, if I click on this plain text output, I've got a solution overview, right? What is this solution all about? Recruitment efficiency, optimized development initiatives. I've got descriptions of value drivers. I've got lots of supportive text as well going along with the map. And most importantly for us is we need the code. And so we've got this JSON element here where it converts all of this into code that we can ingest into LeveragePoint and get to our final product, which is, of course, something that looks like this. Now, I say ingest because today we're doing that part. We're putting the code in there, but by the time we launch this for beta access next year, it's all going to be completely seamless. And so you click go and you can review those results and then also jump right to the presentation here. So I've taken that leap. I'm looking at my presentation here, and you'll notice that not only is it bringing in, of course, the name of the solution, but it's bringing in some nice graphics. It's bringing in Workday's branding, right? We've got Workday's blue, Workday's orange here. That's going to be consistent throughout the entire presentation. As with all, oops, I wanted to switch over here just so I don't have to fill that out. I've got Acme Technologies as my fake prototypical customer here. So this is the roadmap for Acme Technologies. It's exactly the same type of value story that we talk about all the time. We're starting with a discovery product overview for getting to know you and your business. We go to a high level look at value, then customizing the value and getting into tweaking the solution to fit your needs. I think I hit some security thing there. Okay, so jumping into the value overview, here's where we see that high-level value proposition. And this came directly from the AI. What's nice about LeveragePoint is that you can click and you can customize that, right? So if you've got a specific customer who cares a little bit more about this than that, you can customize that before you get in front of them. You can customize that while you're on the call with them, and a nice image to go with it. I should mention as kind of in terms of what we're showing here today and where we're going, the imagery, we're pulling that in manually right now. So all of the text and all of the math that you see here is all been completely generated by the AI and automated, filled out this value story. But the imagery, we kind of pulled that in manually, and that will be automated in the next couple of months. So we've got the high-level data, right? So actually pulling the important key pieces of information from that generated value story that came from ChatGPT right onto one screen where you can say, okay, this is all the high-level information that we need about your business, Mr. and Ms. Customer, to kind of start tailoring this. How many employees are in your organization, right? It's not 1,000, you're only 750. Okay, right? How many days does it take to typically hire? Maybe you're a little bit better than average at 45 days to hire, et cetera, et cetera. So you can fill that out in front of the customer. We've got the key benefits. Again, here, this is all pulled in automatically, created by the Gen AI into this nice, neat little summary slide. I want to jump ahead to one of our value driver or business impact slides. So I'll come to the third one here on the improved talent acquisition. So again, like I mentioned, we've got this math coming directly from the tool. You'll notice, though, of course, the 45 days that I adjusted on the previous slide there. But the key thing to this slide is the value driver formula. We're going with a very standardized, conventional formula where you start with what we think of as a key performance metric, 45 days to hire. That's kind of your current performance metric. Your improvement by switching to the new solution, in this case, Workday's talent management software, and then a dollarization or a financialization factor, right? How much does that cost? So if we're saving, if we're saving 20% of 45 days at $2,000 a day, we can roll up the math. At the very end, we've got our waterfall, right? So employee retention, talent acquisition, performance management, all adds up to $3.2 million of value, minus this somewhat completely bogus price that I put in here for the purpose of the of the demo, because I wanted to show you also that we're not only automating the creation of this waterfall chart, but we're also automating this time to value chart, right? So I put in those numbers there, an upfront investment and an annual cost that probably bear no resemblance to reality, but you can see here that we've got this really nice chart that gets automated based on those inputs, right? So we start off, below zero with our initial investment. We have here a setup period of 9 months. And so we start to receive value after that, and we get a payback in 19 months, right? And you'll see that, again, just like with everything in LeveragePoint, it's all customizable. So if you have a shorter setup period, if you can get up going faster, you'll have a quicker payback as well. Okay. Let me switch gears just to kind of summarize. I'm going to share a quick slide or two. So the LeveragePoint Gen AI plan is all about embedding our expertise in a workflow that's going to reduce the time to good value content. And I should say here that it's really about creating good draft value stories, right? We're not talking about creating a final thing, a final presentation that you're going to go and immediately put in front of a customer. I don't think that's reasonable to ask from a Gen AI tool at this point. And it's really not something that I think you'd want to do anyway, right? You want to get your product managers involved, but rather than staring at a blank screen and not knowing what to create, this really gives them something to start with. And so what should that thing look like? That value story, that draft value story, it has to include a good economic value analysis. It's got to include messaging. And of course, that third important element, right, that we talked about, design, branding, and imagery. And so coming soon, right, we've got everything that I showed you today, creation of those value stories, but with a seamless integration in the LeveragePoint platform, together with a streamlined and interactive user experience, right? So if you're used to talking to a ChatGPT or Google Gemini or one of the other AIs, and you know how you can do interactive and you can evaluate some of the responses and come back and say, oh, let me tweak this a little bit. Let me, can you change that a little bit? You'll be able to do all of that before you create your draft. And then of course, go and update the draft in LeveragePoint and make it better and better before you're ready to present it. But one quick little plug here is, coming soon in the new year, we'll be opening up to beta launch to customers in select process. So if you are interested, please do go ahead and sign up in our exit survey for that early access coming next year. And before I turn it back over to Nick, just the guiding principles here again, right? Speed and design, creating an initial value story with underlying value logic in minutes, right? We talked about this earlier. Nick had said, I think, we were thinking about maybe 30 hours of time to create a draft value story. I'll tell you, from all the projects I work on, that's probably pretty accurate view. But the question is, do those 30 hours happen consecutively? No, not normally, right? You've got a lot of time between meetings and things can stretch out from weeks to months. So we want to create a good draft, not in months, not in weeks, not in days, and not even in hours. Right now, we're creating these in hours. We're going to get down to minutes. So speed, design, value, content, quality, right? We understand value, and through this smart prompt engineering, we can embed the best quantification practices. And finally, and this is really, really crucial, and it's not something that you saw in the demo today, which is enterprise-grade security and features. I should say you saw the security, but you didn't see it for integrating your own content. So one of the things that we expect from a lot of our customers is the want to integrate your own content, right? So this is going to be especially helpful for new product launches. Now, with existing products that are out there in the market, ChatGPT and the other Gen AI solutions can go out there and collect all the information they really need to put together a good value story. But if you're working on a product launch, they might not have access to that information, which is totally confidential and proprietary. So building in enterprise-grade security for ingesting that material.
Learn more about how to implement value selling with LeveragePoint, the leading cloud-based value selling platform. click the button on the screen.